First stadium?
Oh,
Yeah, I changed the back to glass like we talked about, so I made this price
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the village board to order. It is 7:40.
Keep the time moving.
A friendly reminder for all board members to speak into the microphones. Has this meeting been publicly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
All trustees are present except trustee Warren, who is excused. The first item on our agenda is special order of business. 4A, an update on Shorewood's fire station, cost estimates, plans, and facade easement. Although, didn't we take off facade easement?
Correct. My apologies. But we will definitely provide an update on the status of the
Chief Whitaker.
Good evening, everyone. So I will do the brief introduction, but John Wallenkamp from Cooney Architects is here, and we'll get through more detail. In your packet, in the village board packet, is my cover memo. We have cost estimates that were included for the project to this point. And so last time I was here, we talked primarily about the pedestrian walkway. And that was a point of discussion. That is included in the project that John will walk through. We now have an interior plan on the building. So we were able to get cost estimates. John was able to get cost estimates. The estimates there are favorable at this point. And we had talked about, when I say favorable, we're talking about estimates. We talked about other type of projects on our earlier estimates. We haven't gone to bid yet, so that could be a whole other world, and you never know what happens when you go to bid. So I will caution everything I say here by reminding us all of that, because we've been on that road on our project before, not very sure about that. Also in the packet is a timeline for the process moving forward. The design review board and the plan commission for the village will be looking at this project in July, later this month. So that's why we're here tonight, just to sort of give this group a sort of a preview and a heads up. But at this point, as I wrote in the memo, there's no action required of the board here. This is an information presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John. I will have him walk through the where we're at, and then we can take questions or we'll follow after that. I believe you'll have his packet now, just these, right? So that's what he's working on. And I know there's a couple copies if people are interested.
And Chief Whitaker, I don't know if anyone in the audience wants any of those copies that are down there.
Yeah.
You could distribute them.
Why don't I just stand them around and just it's, yeah, that's what he's going to show. So I will turn it over to John, who has been working with his team very diligently on the projects.
Thank you, Chief. John Wallenkamp, Cooney Architects. The goal of this evening is to make sure there's full understanding of kind of where we're at to date. We're excited about the project. Same excitement when we came in here for the interview 3-4 months ago. I think the team's put together kind of an awesome result of what we think. I'm going to kind of just walk through all the items of what we're changing in the exterior of the building, and then we'll talk a little bit on the interior, and then we can go through any questions. Jumping right to the colored rendering of the site plan. North is up. The current footprint is not changing on the west, south, east, and north, except there's little addition. And as we go through the presentation, I'll show you what that addition is going to look like. But primarily, that addition is needed because the apparatus no longer fit in that bay, and we need to fit 2 larger apparatuses into the northern bay. The current parking lot to the north, there's an existing garage there. The existing garage will be demoed and removed. It's no longer needed, and that additional pavement will go in its place. The dumpster that's currently located here will go up in this area here. The alleyway, as we'll call it, is going to turn into more of a public way. I think I was talked about a little bit at the last time. Our goal is vehicle traffic obviously will no longer go down that alleyway except for maintenance on the side of either facility. So whether we need to get access to Village Hall or the fire station, we'll have that ability to do that by moving some bollards, things like that. That entire green space will wrap around to the east facade of Village Hall. So that entire drive will be going along Village Hall also, which we feel is actually going to give you a stronger entrance to Village Hall. Right now you feel like you're coming down some stairs, and we're trying to clean that all up, give it a little more inviting entrance. Different plantings, just to give you an idea kind of what we're looking at. There's some rain gardens that we're going to introduce on the west side, on the east side. Pretty much just like that, low maintenance. Everything else around the building is low maintenance. Talking to staff, our goal was not to create some type of landscape that's going to require additional maintenance that's there today. This is the current addition. This is a picture of what it is today. This is the addition. So pretty much we're adding about 24 feet to the east of that addition. I can tell you this facade right here, we've upgraded that door. Originally we were just going to match a standard sectional door. We're going to go to a more traditional glass fire station door. I do have an image on the board here. So this image that you see here will give you more of a glass entrance facing east. So not the stark white door. This is the current section of the south facade. The left picture is what is currently there today. If you're familiar with entering the fire station today, you enter from the west side. We're going to be relocating the main public entrance to right off the east side, right about here. This existing door, we're going to use the architecture that's there, put a new door in. The existing garage door, which will be removed and infilled with some architectural matching the windows that are currently on the south elevation. Behind this section is what was the old sally port for the police station. That's going to be the whole living quarters, I'll call it, the day room or the sleeping quarters for the fire station. Architecturally, you're going to go from this hard pavement to more of a landscape garden area. So our goal down that alleyway, that probably is going to kind of be some featured spots just to stop and whether there's flowers there or whatever ends up being there. Our goal is to have some type of focal point, but still allowing vehicle traffic for maintenance, as I mentioned. The west facade has been, obviously we're going to, everything stays the same on the west facade. The doors will, whoops, sorry. This current door height will match that on both doors, so now it'll look equal across the face of the facade. There'll be traditional old bifold doors, which are the doors that were originally on the building, more of a bifold barn door. We're going to be putting on the west facade. The front entry door here, right now there's some wrought iron railing that's there. That's going to enclose that entire porch off area, so people will know not to enter to that door. Other than that, the entire look of the building will stay the same. The cream that's there now will be refurbished, repainted. The entire exterior will be. Any of the windows that were replaced with older, with newer style windows, but what I'll call single pane windows with no buttons, will be all replaced with thermal panes, but matching the old traditional windows with the vertical lines, similar to what you're seeing in the Village Hall windows. The pavement out front will be all new. The revised floor plan right now, if you're familiar with the station, this entire piece, right in about right here, was the original early 1900s fire station. And then the addition went on back here and over here. This little piece is the new piece we're adding right now. So it's the only piece that's getting added on to the exterior structure of the building, which is technically being added on to the newest portions of the building. And as you see here, it's going to allow for the apparatus in the size that needs to be there. We did put some relief in the elevation, so we're not trying to line up, so it gives us some definition for matching brick and things like that. But the plan ended up, going through a lot of, I guess, iterations. We think we got a very working plan that we're not jeopardizing pretty much anything if we had built a brand new building. So we really think that the team came up with a great plan, that this would be, if we would have knocked the station down, this is about a similar plan, except the apparatus bays probably would have been together. But we were able to work the traffic patterns through the station so responders have safe movement throughout the station. The second floor and the lower level basement area pretty much will not be used by the fire station anymore. It'll be unoccupied spaces, but it'll be heated and cooled just to maintain their environments, but will be pretty much just used for storage. Basement. Okay, take questions at any time?
Shall we?
I don't, procedure-wise?
It's up to you, would you like
I
to?
got
Is the firing range still being used in the basement?
From what I understand, the firing range, that's still an agreement that would need to be worked out with the village. The goal, I think, for fire is that it would just be used for fire.
Yeah, I don't believe, I
Okay.
think it's gonna be cleaned up and,
Yeah.
Thank you.
And really, these plans just highlight the existing conditions of the building. The dash lines you're seeing are all the existing police that was in this, occupied the first floor that we were going to be removing. The nice thing with this plan is going to let us build probably 85% of the new station and leaving the current station up and occupied and being able to dispatch out of. We're going to be able to stay on the second floor, the first floor except the northern apparatus bay, and then we'll move down to the first floor, and then we'll do the northern apparatus bay, and they can use the southern bay. So it literally, there'll be very little downtime. The emergency generator, the electrical, everything will be upgraded, so this will be a new 2020-21 facility when we're done. It's just the outer structure will be left as is, but everything inside that envelope is going to be new. Even the use of upgrading the wall system, the thermal systems, the walls, the roofing, everything is being brought to current day standards. The building is being analyzed right now. We don't have the final result on the solar panel system, but we have it in for engineering right now, so that'll be forthcoming. But we see some advantages we're taking there. We're working.
I'm sorry, trustee Hartman has a question.
I just had a question about the exterior brick.
Yeah.
And the matching is, what is, I mean, because obviously that's a pretty old brick.
Yep.
Is there a plan for using reclaimed brick to make sure that that matches, or?
Yeah, we're going to do the best we can. The building right now, the best we can tell is almost over 6 or 7 different brick colors on it. So between however they did different restorations, the nice thing is the majority of the brick is a Cream City brick. The bigger piece you're seeing is, as it's aged, it's gotten darker. So if you go even from the south side to the north side, you're going to see it's different in color. So our goal is to hopefully get something that's not been blasted to the cream city, but get something that still has some age look to it. And then there's a standard, that accent orange, if you look out there, that's a standard fired brick that's still available too. So
Can you reuse any of the bricks from the demo?
we're demoing very little of that wall. That current wall is primarily a garage door. So this is the elevation. That's really the only wall we're demoing. So there's very little brick to reclaim on that. The thing is, I think it'd be harder to patch in some areas. So our goal is, but that's why we put some different relief in there, that we're not butting up directly in line with the existing facade. Any other?
No, thank you.
So the solar power, that'll be forthcoming, the study's going to come. We got all the utility bills, so they're really just analyzing that from basically how the station operated since police has been out, because the utility bills are a little different than when prior. So we're just trying to put that study together. I'm going to go back. Any questions?
The second in the basement, how extensive are you going to clean it up?
Oh, good question. We are going to remove all the ceilings, all the existing mechanical, all the existing electrical. we're taking it down to nothing, because we had to run all new ductwork, sprinkler system, so all of it's coming out. Yep, the basement and the second floor, we will be leaving walls where we don't need it. But the main air handler units that we're gonna supply for the new building will actually be on the second floor. So we didn't want to put exterior units in, so we're taking a section on the exterior, on the second floor, which is currently the locker space.
Okay.
So in phase one, we'll be able to relocate the lockers out of there and claim that space right away too. But we will be removing all the mechanical, all the plumbing, all the heating, down to the original ceiling structure. Yeah.
Trustee Menta.
So the garage doors in this photograph, it looks like they're kind of glass and see-through. Is that how they're going to be?
Yes. Yep.
Is that like historically accurate?
Yeah, correct. If you look at the original photograph of the fire station, they were glass pane, like bifold doors. Which is more traditional, is the bifold doors are what the original. And the only thing with difference with bifold doors, they're opening up sideways instead of going up. So it's more traditional. So that's what these doors will be bifold also, just like the traditional door.
And the other question I have is, there was some discussion about whether this would be LEED certified or not.
Oh, LEED certified?
Yeah.
I can tell you no, but we will design towards those standards. Our goal is always to try to hit a LEED silver. We usually run the calculations, but this building is not. It's not going through the process of trying to get a plaque to be that.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? When we originally studied it with Concord, we talked about solar in one of our smaller internal meetings, and they had mentioned that you would gain more energy efficiency from a high energy efficient heating and cooling system than from doing solar. Do you remember that? And I just wondered what you're looking into. You said solar, but is there something that is even more energy efficient, like a very high efficient?
Yeah. Well, we're going to put all those in place. We're actually working with Focus on Energy right now. So we're going through different bundles. So we're going to go through the most efficient system to put in there, because the life of the building is going to be using those systems. The solar is just going to be a supplement to the electrical usage. So any uses on the electrical would be coming from what we gain from solar, if it shows it makes sense. But regardless, the system we use for HVAC, there will be energy recovery units in there. So what it is not just the exhaust, it uses energy that's required to be exhausted to actually efficiency for running the unit. So all that type of thing is, they're being looked at too.
Trustee McKay.
I think it looks great.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is that it?
So I think just moving forward, design review, plan commission will come up in July. The certified survey map of the property needs to be provided, and we've been working on that with Rebecca. That will come to you in August if we stay on track, which I have no reason to believe we're not going to. And then we would like to be out doing bidding in the middle of August, closing sometime in early September, or opening the bids.
I want an update on facilities and but Trustee Menta.
Yeah, I had a question about the improvements to the front of, I guess, the back of Village Hall. That's included in the current estimate.
The cost estimate includes that. We have, the discussion so far has been, we'll have an internal discussion about how that cost is split up between the village and
Can we bid that separately? Because I mean, I think when we were originally discussing the project, that was never really something that we considered or asked for or thought. I mean, I'm sure it'll be great and look really nice, but it just was like something we haven't really prioritized.
I
So
think that was the plan, was to have an alternate.
Yep, it's a bid alternate right now, so we will know the exact cost, and we might even set it, there's two alternates, so we know the split alternates, but yeah. It'll be a separate line item to make action on after we get the
we can
bids.
make a decision.
What was it?
On the front, the part that's on the back of this thing.
The landscape buffer that's going to be going between the two facilities.
Oh, no, not the between part, the part that pertains really to Village
Oh,
Hall.
the eastern part of Village Hall.
Yes.
Okay, yep.
That will be a separate alternate, just that eastern part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, like I said, we'll probably have two. We want to know the cost of that whole alleyway.
Right.
Okay, so we may have alternate 1 for this piece and alternate 2 for the, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this, I don't know what other people, I mean, in a way, it would be good to have everything kind of fit and be of a piece. But, I'm not sure if that's, I mean, even if it's $20,000, I mean, that's something we could be spending on, like a new launch or something that maybe more of a priority for.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see the bid it out separately. I think it's sort of part of the plan. But I can definitely understand that sentiment. About this part, obviously, it included is essential, but that back section, that's what you're saying, right? The back section closer to the parking lot, maybe like a nice to have, but not essential.
Can I follow up on that? My assumption when you guys were talking last time about the pedestrian way, and taking up the asphalt and rearranging it for the side entrance, was that would all, on the CSM, that's all going to be fire property, and we'll have an access easement, so if we need to do maintenance on our building? Is that still how it's being drafted? And there's a reason I'm asking.
So can you go back to one of the ones that have the property lines on it?
Yep. Can you see it here?
Yeah, okay, so there is the proposed property line that would divide our properties, and then we would need an easement.
But the easements we get because that alleyway is now going to be
Correct.
sold.
So the easement is specifically so that we can maintain the village hall building.
Correct.
And because our mechanicals are in, where our HVAC is in the roof, or well, in the attic. So the only way to actually access that is to take it out and what have you, or to replace windows or do something on the roof treatment. So that property would then be under ownership with the fire department.
So when you mentioned cost split, and the other trustees mentioned for the village hall behind us, I'm assuming that whatever's on your property is the fire station's cost?
Correct, that's what's been discussed today.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
And so that is also why, in terms of bidding, there's been discussion of bidding the area behind Village Hall as an alternate. So,
Just that area.
correct, because the village board would need to act to
Expend money.
to do those improvements.
It would be good to, since we're mobilizing for this overall project and stuff, to have an alternate. So we can finish, I mean, with the police station, we divvied it up into phases. It'd be nice to do the project, the whole project, so it can be, we're done with disruption. Does the easement include getting access to the historical society door?
So it will also include, so within there, in that easement, which is not shown here, but you're gonna see that in the CSM when it comes forward. We're in finalization of it right now. There will be also an electrical easement through that area as well as pedestrian access, because people will need to be able to access our building, the Historical Society, and general pedestrians will access the fire station or just be simply walking through, no differently than the pedestrian mall area that we have between Mod Pizza and the parking garage. We have an easement over that area that allows the public to transverse to kind of go between neighborhoods. So that's something similar that we would look for here. And then, sure, am I ready to go to that? Okay. So from a facade easement standpoint, as you recall before, the fire department was working with Attorney Alan Markovitz, and we were working with Attorney Bruce Black. Because of the nature of how this renovation is taking place and the minimal impacts that are occurring in the building, what we're recommending is that we actually work with our regular legal counsel for each of our organizations. So for North Shore Fire Department, that would be their regular counsel, Bill Demeek, and then for us, that would be our attorney, Nathan Bayer. And then work off of the template of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They have a template document that they provide to people as guidance in terms of the different avenues to pursue within the scope of the facade easement. So we would be looking for North Shore Fire Department to provide an initial draft with those items that are related to both the west and the south facade, and that would come in then for internal review with myself and our legal counsel, and then we would intend to provide back a draft to you on August 5th that would meet the interests of both groups. And really, when we look at it, you know, that easement, at least in the template that's provided, what they focus on doing is establishing and attaching the plan set so that we clearly establish what is existing in the building and where that's going to go. And then it calls up just some functional parameters about if there were modifications, how would that happen, what approvals would be necessary, what happens if the building is destroyed by fire or tornado or partially damaged in some way. And it just, all these things that, you know, we always say, that will never happen, but it just kind of lays out a framework for that next board and, you know, the next staff members who are there. They'll have a way to operate with the building in the future.
So 2 questions on that. I believe we adopted and forwarded some characteristics that were presented from the residents to the fire station to incorporate into the facade easement.
So the facade easement will not specify, unless we choose to go to the level, the specific detail in the building, but the plans itself reflect that detail.
But plans of current building and 20 years from now, it's 2 different things. The facade easement is protecting 20 years from now. So the plans might reflect it, but the facade easement, if it's not stated in the facade easement, then it's not guaranteed. It would have, I mean, any board could overturn, you know, plan development if they change anything. So, but do you know what I'm talking about? There was a list of characteristics that we adopted as a board to forward to the fire station to go into the facade easement.
So, and that list was brought forth by the lovely group that's sitting right here.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that happened so that everyone's on the same page.
Right now, that list is not incorporated within the scope in terms of language within the scope of that document. What the template document from the National Preservation of Historic Trust recommends is that you have baseline documents that specify what the current conditions are, so that when left to interpretation by future boards, they would have the past architectural documentations from the last 3 renditions of the building. This one currently being proposed, so that the next group or the design review board in the future would have those as the reference and guidance points in terms of what's historic with the building.
Okay, well, I'd love to see when we have the draft, the 2 next to each other. And the only other question, I have a concern that I expressed to Rebecca on the phone. The facade easement, I'm unclear, maybe you can explain to the board why it's not going to go forward simultaneously with design review and plan commission approval. Why would we wait until bids come back?
The facade easement is not a requirement of the Planning Development District. It was a requirement of the board through the MOU and is subject to specifically board approval within the scope of that agreement.
But the other easements are going forward with the CSM.
Because they're located on the certified survey map. And under Wisconsin state statute, those are items that you would review within the scope of a certified survey map for splitting the parcel boundaries.
Is there any reason you wouldn't just bring them all?
Number one, I don't know if we'll be ready or not, because it wasn't intended to bring it to the commission. From a legal perspective and from the parameters that the board set up in the MOU, the Planning Commission is not recommending buying the facade easement. It's the village board approval. So the facade easement is specifically listed in the agreement as being, as meeting both boards, meaning the NSFD board and the village board to agree.
I understand, and that's my concern is, what we didn't want to happen is go design review, get approval, go to plan commission, get approval, go out to bid, and we immediately are going to close, and we still are grappling with a facade easement, and then we're rushed to maybe adopt something that we might not do. So I just, if the sooner the better is all.
Sure.
If you could go forward with the simultaneous, even if it's board, not really plan commission, but simultaneously you're getting all the approvals,
So
that would be helpful.
maybe I should cover, maybe it would be helpful that I cover the timeline. So our next meeting as a group is July 15th. I'm not sure if we would have a draft. I doubt we would have a draft ready within that time frame. I don't know, maybe we would. But we do intend to bring back a draft that's been vetted through both legal counsel and staff for the meeting. It's not going to be before you that night for approval, but it's so that we can get the board reviewing that document as well. It will go to the NSFD board in August. The project then goes to bid mid-August. And then bids don't come back until mid-September. And what the MOU calls for is that before we go to close, and if the numbers are under the threshold amount within the MOU, it's our goal to have a document for facade easement that's acceptable to both boards by the time that happens.
That's great. The earlier the better, just because I'm sure the residents are going to see it, and
Sure.
And what happens if one board does, wants to change, and then I don't want to get to the bids came in at the right dollar amount, and it says we immediately go to close, and we haven't settled on the size.
I really appreciate your proactiveness on this. So maybe I should also explain some of the timing. We didn't engage in any drafting of facade easement up until this point because we were still, for a couple of weeks, it was every week we were changing the interior of the building and not knowing how that was going to pan out. So once we've gotten to this point of knowing that this is where we are with the architecture, then we want to say, here's what we have, make sure that there's no significant objections. And I don't believe that there are from an exterior perspective, but then we would go immediately to draft.
Okay. Does any other board member have questions, or I can call in a second? Trustee
Question on the concrete in the front. Is it replacing all that concrete, or is it going to be more dry? Like in the middle? Yeah, in that area.
This entire section will be new.
So it'll all be still concrete, the whole front, except for the little planter out the shed. I'm just impervious space.
Yeah.
Surface.
We could look at this section right here, because we are moving the sign to create more green space right here. So the sign is being relocated to kind of direct you more down the pedestrian way. So there is potential, because this is out of the southern apparatus bay door, this is out of the northern. So there's no reason we couldn't increase, maybe look at the green space in the front there. Yep.
Impervious.
Some of the grade also is going to get adjusted because of the door heights. And
Yeah, through here, some of those,
yeah, there's some challenges with the grade.
Yep.
Trustee Minter?
Are those permeable pavers in the alleyway?
Yes, yep.
Excellent. Any other questions from board members? Ms. Potter? She just
Rosie Reddick, 4248 North Ardmore. So my question is, what would it hurt to include the detailed list in the easement? Like the crenellation on the top of the tower, the steps, the monumental window here with the arches and the limestone keystones. What would it hurt to include that? So there's something specific that so we know what we're preserving. These are the elements that we're preserving. What would it hurt to say specifically what we're saying?
I think the facade easement will have those, right?
That's what I'm assuming, that's why we have the
There's
list.
different ways you could go about this. I think we're still at that point of sitting down and talking to people that actually have to legally review these as to what that looks like as far as a document. So there's a template document that's several, I think it's over 98 pages for one building that we got from this group. So I don't know that is the level of detail we need to get at in this project, because primarily the building is remaining the same, and we have to go back for major changes to design review
But, no.
in the future.
No, but the facade easement is, you spell out the features that you're protecting for the life of the building. So if there's a feature like, and again, I'm not an architect or planner, but a feature on the building that is important to the historic character, you don't leave that up to design review in the future. You write that in there so that there's no question that they would have to replace it with the same, with the same architectural feature.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten to that point of drafting that document to know. I don't even have a draft in front of me.
Yeah,
I just wasn't clear I just wasn't clear that was going to happen. That's why I asked that question.
And Rebecca, I guess that was my question to you too, is we haven't seen the draft document that you here were expressing, and I don't know if that's something that could be incorporated.
Well, we'll start in that process and be back with you.
Yeah, we're going to have to work with the legal counsel to work through what that actually all looks like. Because no, I don't have anyone on my staff that's experienced in facade easements, so I need to find someone that has some.
But you have the list, right, that we forwarded?
I think in my file I would find.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions? Seeing none, is there anything else you need to let us know?
No, that's it.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so
No,
much.
we're
It
excited.
looks beautiful.
John and his team have done a really good job
Great
on
job.
moving the project forward. We want to keep on our timelines and.
Creative, by the way. None of us would have thought of that.
Right, yeah. We were thought of it.
It's crazy.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, no problems. Have a good night.
Enjoy. Okay, so we move on to our next agenda item, which is under special orders of business. It is 4B, presentation of the 2019 Community Survey results.
Yeah.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi. Understanding there's other items on the agenda, I'm going to take until 8:30 to do the presentation. The purpose is just to summarize the results. If you as a board want to discuss further, feel free to do so. And then what I will do at the end is just say, or I'll say now too, that if there's additional analysis that you would like to be informed, let me know. I can take those requests either after my presentation or via email, and I can provide it to you as a board. But the main purpose is just to summarize the results for you tonight.
Do you want to take questions as trustees have them, or do you want trustees?
At the end would be nice. To get the rhythm, so I appreciate that. Rebecca, if you could do me a favor, you see this button down here? Can you click that for me, please? Thanks. Okay, so I summarized in 10, what are the 10 themes that came out of the survey. So I'm going to go through each of those 10 themes. One, when it came to the perception ratings, those remain fairly consistent. So compared to 2016, all the satisfaction perception ratings scored within 0.3 of one another. Sense of community, reputation, ease of walking, schools, opportunities to participate in community matters are all some that I kind of figured there for you. All those scored pretty well. There's some that didn't, I'll highlight that, and the other 9 points that I have for you. But point one is just to know that all those remain fairly consistent. Theme two, some concerns about traffic and road maintenance. So here are some of the ones related to traffic and road maintenance that, as you can see, anything below 3, are things that I identify as areas, you can call it concerns, points of interest, whatever you'd like to term that as. And most of these were fairly consistent to 2016, but dipped a little bit lower. And we had a question that asked about priority and road for neighborhood conditions, and road conditions rated number 1. So I made a footnote for you to identify that. But all these scored relatively low, especially concerned to, when you compare it to other neighborhood conditions. Number 3, when we take a look at service, our service ratings, all of them scored pretty high and remain fairly consistent compared to years past. These were some that I thought would be helpful to highlight as EMS and fire services, our front desk customer service, garbage collection, library services, parks, police, and senior services were the services that were the highest. But once again, service ratings were fairly consistent and fairly strong, especially compared to some of the other parts of the survey. Tax and affordability is always a topic that I know as you as board members hear a lot in the community, and obviously is a high priority for all of you. Affordability came in as a 2.0, and just to clarify, when I talk about a 1.0 versus a 4.0, if everyone responded, to the highest rating, like very valuable or a high perception, that would be a 4.0, and 1.0 would be if everyone says not valuable at all, or the lowest perception rating. So when we're talking about a 2.0, that means probably more people tended to vote on the more negative term, or the lower perception term than the higher perception. 2.5 is kind of that middle ground. So if I go back here on these, 2.5 is kind of that middle barrier. So anything below that, that's kind of how that pendulum swings. So if we go back to number 4 here, you know, affordability, I would keep that on. That was the lowest perception rating. Typically, it has been the lowest perception rating if you look at other surveys as it came in again. Variety of housing options came in as a 2.7. I looked through all the different responses to our famous question, what Shorewood really needs is blank. And probably the 2 most common answers to that was something about lowering property taxes or affordable housing. One thing, we always ask that question, which we spent a lot of time in board determining how to word the question about maintaining services. You know, do you do a slight increase to user fees and property taxes and all that? And once again, maintain services outweighed the other 4 options that were part of that question by 56.9%, which is fairly consistent to what 2016 was. This percentage did decrease a little bit when you compare it to previous surveys. And then one thing that I thought was interesting was we asked the wheel tax support question again, and that did change when we had it as I think it was the spring 2017 perhaps, or spring 2018, when it was on that ballot. If we looked at Shorewood results, that was favored, I think it was like 57.43% or something like that, or 53.47, something like that. Now, on our survey, 49% said no, 46% said yes. For number 5, parking trends and observations. Once again, if we take a look at this, these percentages are if someone said very favorable or somewhat favorable, or very easy or somewhat easy. So 86% said yes the day and 82 at night, and those kind of reversed. So if you look back at 2016, more people would have said it would have been easier to park at night versus day, so that has reversed. As always, parking in the business district always remains the lowest of the 4. And one thing that we did, we took a look at parking in structures and lots, which was 81.13, and the very easy rating went up 9%. I don't know if that's, there's 2, and I don't know what the reason is, but there might be 2 reasons for that increase. One, we added in, I think it said lots, and we added in structures, so I don't know if that changed people's perception. And also we did add in the Oakland parking structure there since the last survey, so that might have been another reason why. But anytime I think we see like a jump of 9% for one of the categories, that's something to note. 44% versus 33% to ease parking regulations in favor of. And then we asked 2 different winter parking alternatives. Neither were favored on the survey.
What were they? I can't remember.
One was the Milwaukee model. So that was when we looked at alternative parking, was like one specific, and then one was the Milwaukee model based on whatever the number of the day was, that's the side of the street that you park on. And so neither of those came out favorable. Number 6, business district perceptions. Facade improvements and business district redevelopment. Very consistent based on prior years, just below 3 on that scale of 1 to 4. As far as that question again of what Shorewood really needs is filling vacant storefronts, once again was a very common answer. We always get a variety of different suggestions on this. I didn't see Mexican restaurant as much, but I know it came up at least once. Same with the hardware store. I didn't typically see, though, in past surveys, vegetarian or healthy option come up, and that did come up a few times. So I just wanted to note that. And people in Wisconsin like their ice cream, so I'm not surprised to see that as Atwater Beach was a question, so over 60% of respondents showed or favored having vendors, or at least exploring having vendors or rentals at Atwater Beach. There was one option here that wasn't as favored. I think that was wagons, renting wagons to take stuff down to the beach. And I know the Parks Commission is taking a closer look at the feasibility of that. We had kind of a question of what other things you would like at Atwater Beach. And I wanted to note there was a strong opposition to allowing any alcoholic beverages. That came up very, very frequently in the comments. Other ideas included charging access for the beach, improving bathroom facilities, and access to yard games. Number 8, top communication methods. As far as the variable, the top, as far as very valuable ratings, the manager's memo, Shorewood Today, and Village website came in the top 3. Shorewood Today and Village website have always been in the top 3. Village manager's memo is new to that, which awesome to hear. We'll always try to make it valuable for folks, and I think we have some other ideas to make it more helpful and also to get the word out, because I think the thing I took note of, it's top here, but when it's top awareness, it wasn't really close to these 3. So I think the question for staff and for officials is how can we get more people aware of the manager's memo so it's closer to some of these communication methods. And I'm not surprised, I mean, these are very visible with Shorewood Today coming at the top as far as the top awareness ratings are concerned. We added in a question about code enforcement as far as priorities. There were 7 of them. The top 3 as far as priority, you can see there between commercial exterior, the sidewalk snow inspection, and then residential exterior were the top 3. The lowest 2 were the comprehensive duplex inspections, and then like literally in its own category, not even close to the other 6, were lawn and weed inspections. Lastly, demographic observations. I just want to make note, like this, I didn't do an analysis to determine if it's statistically significant, but I can bet you it's probably not. So, anytime you open it up for a community survey and that, you do that to allow, opportunity for all to respond. We had a 5.9% response rate, which is fine. I think all of us would like to see that number higher, and we can explore ways to get that higher. It at least gives us some data to take a look at and start some discussions that are worthwhile. It's also not proportionate to census data, so as far as the ethnicity concerned, I mean that percentage should be a lot higher. As far as renters, we have tons of renters here in Shorewood, way higher than 17.8%. So that's underrepresented in the survey results. If you look at single-family households, or non-single-family households, that should be right around 50%. It's only at 30.7%. And then younger generations, I mean, we barely got anyone under 18. And then that 19 to 29 age, only 3.6%. So those are all areas that we just need to work on, reaching out more and trying to get a more response. We had that question to ask about geographic location though, and I felt that was pretty proportionate as far as the representation of Shorewood. So based on that, I think there's some further analysis that could be done. The last point I just want to make to wrap up at 8:30 is the HRC data subcommittee group will be getting the data to do some additional analysis. And once they perform that additional analysis, that will be provided to you as a board. So that's why it's important to me if there's any requests that you have, let me know via email so I can provide that.